Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot that they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brody, and I'll be hosting this episode with my co-hosts Amanda and Christian as we attempt to discover what story is truly the best from a galaxy far, far away. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing ranks and hot takes from Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. By the end of this episode, we'll have a definitive answer on where this piece of Star Wars content ranks amongst the rest. Now, with that said, let's get this show started. What a movie. Ooh. Indeed.
Pure goodness.
Woof. Amanda, tell the good listeners of this show what Star Wars Episode 3 was all about. Remind them.
The Jedi Council is suspicious of the Chancellor and asks Anakin to spy on him, but Anakin's bitterness towards the Jedi Council begins to pull him to the dark side. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan Kenobi goes off on his own to take on General Grievous in hopes to finally put an end to the Clone Wars.
Boom.
What a movie.
The saga is complete.
A movie.
I know. You know, I was interested coming into this. I didn't know if it was going to be the best Star Wars movie, if it was going to be, because there are areas you could, if you really want to, you can nitpick, like the beginning of the movie. We can all agree, not a hot start, right? Normally the beginning.
What?
This is ludicrous, man.
Wait, hold on.
What are you saying?
Hold on, before we keep going.
Wait, the opening?
What are you
yeah,
talking
that
about? Like
terrible opening sequence. Right, terrible.
The
Where they're-
space flying,
Where
Yeah.
Anakin and Obi-Wan are like flying together and like the
perfect dynamic between the
Oh.
two of them and the fighting.
The
and-
perfect
you
dynamic.
you
Okay.
understand their character development so well.
I listen, there's so much about that throws me off. Like, one, I don't care about R2-D2 being the most OP droid, whatever. It's very silly. It's very clunky.
Silly?
Yeah.
Oh
You
yeah,
can-
because Star Wars is never silly.
Listen, I'm not saying they're never silly. I'm just saying when it's done in this way, it's not done well. And normally the opening sequence of a movie gives you the feeling and the tone of what's to come, what's the rest of it. And this, it's just like... it just doesn't. It doesn't
It's
land.
intense.
It doesn't
War,
land.
intense.
Like we
action.
start and like isn't it like the only one that starts like with a war like
It's
right in the
intense.
middle
Doesn't
of it.
feel
It
intense.
also feels
Yeah.
like, you know, we have a lot of CGI in this moment, but it feels really worth it. Like you are in the
Yeah.
pilot seat, like flying through like all of the spaceships and things like that. And then the climactic moment of like trying to land, but like you don't have any
Yeah.
landing gear and like we're not gonna make it.
It's like they're on a mission. They're trying
They
to
don't
get to their
feel
destination.
at all like their lives are in like threatened. They're just laughing the whole time. I mean, not really laughing, but they're basically like
Obi-Wan's like, all right,
laissez-faire.
peace, I'm out. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
He's
They're
got the
very-
Well,
best
have you
choice.
noticed the shields are still up?
it feels laissez-faire and silly. Like you're never feel really threatened. And it goes from like the B2 battle droids being like Roger in Attack of the Clones to
What's that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Go get him.
like it's like very like it's like
That's pretty
I love the B1 battle droids, and I love when they're funnier and goofier.
they're so but like you just I don't know. The last movie they're big, they're bulky, they're pushing B1s out of the way, and in this one they're just like can't even handle.
It was a bit of
little
a
astromech.
programming change.
I just love seeing you get like Hayden Christensen looking so cute in the beginning of this. He's like so smiley, and I love their little gold headbands as they're like talking to each other. I want my own gold headband.
This
I
is
know.
where the fun
Earpiece.
begins.
I'm not.
And yeah,
Kristen,
you get to see their little banter in between each other, and you're wrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're just wrong.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
arguably one of the better,
best.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
for
the best
sure.
openings for Star Wars, man.
You're wow.
Honestly,
Okay, what?
What?
So, for
What?
those who don't know,
What?
I do a lot of the Twitter stuff for our account, and this scene is of all the films, this is the only one that I see circulate on Twitter much of the time, which I'm not saying Twitter is, that's the hardcore truth gospel of everything.
I think
but
you are.
I am saying there's a reason this one circles up and trends a lot more than
Because it's fun.
the others.
It is fun. It's silly.
And you hate
it's
fun.
fun and fancy free in the Star Wars universe. And then we progressively go from there to like, bam, kid killer. Like it's
no, there's some stuff that happens between
slippery
that
slope,
and
man.
Kid Killer.
We've talked
yeah,
about that
you didn't get
slippery
your
slope.
job promotion, so I'm gonna go kill some kids. Like it's. Don't get me wrong.
We've all had a bad day.
Well,
This
right.
is dark.
It got dark quick. Escalated very quickly. Killed someone with a trident. Might want to
I'm
lay
gonna
low
say
for a
it's-
while.
You're painting with some broad brushes, man. In all the categories. We got story. We got music. We got technical aspects. This is a freaking amazing
It
film.
is.
It's
It is.
It's arguably the most space operatic
Yes, I think it is.
of all of
like,
Star Wars.
truly.
It's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
epic. It's a complete.
Yep.
It's a
It is
complete
amazing.
dark emotional crash.
I feel like the only one that comes close to it in the terms of what you just said is The Last Jedi. I don't know of any other, as again, space operatic, high stakes, high drama, emotional pull this way, that way, besides that one movie. And obviously this one's better than that. So
Ooh,
it's just just
Ooh.
saying.
I mean, I agree.
maybe.
Yeah. I will say this movie, I mean, it's everything about it besides that beginning sequence for me is masterful. Like hearing the Battle of Heroes and the way it was blended with Duel of the Fates so, I mean, brilliantly. If I ever got a chance to see like any symphony in person as they play
Yes.
that alone would be worth the price of admission. Just genius composer in John Williams. And I really feel like for me, that was him at his best of any score. Battle of Heroes, Duel of the Fates, it's amazing.
It's cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get some of our favorite moments in all of Star Wars. Some of the best dialogue. Like, do it.
Yes. Very memeable.
I say that all the time.
You get Palpatine's teachings, Plagueis, when they're at that opera, you know, and he's.
What is the
what do you-
opera called?
I don't know.
It's based off of like Swan Lake, right? Like it's the Space Swan Lake.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I've heard Ian McDermott nickname it like the Squid Ballet.
Oh, that, yeah. I think it's something like that.
That's so funny. No, Anakin's over here just trying to enjoy a show, and Palpatine's low key telling him how he murdered a guy in his sleep.
Give it here, Darth Plagueis.
Wise.
Not from a Jedi.
Somehow I have a feeling that Palpatine tells that story to everyone the way he just threw it in front of Kylo's face. So, all right, you're that old guy that has that one story at every party. Like, there's Uncle Palpy
It's a
talking
good
about
one.
talking about how he knew someone who murdered someone in his sleep. Like-
Wonder who that could be.
Whatever. The immersive universe too, by the way. I mean, it not only builds on the story beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, it does pull in all those elements from episode 1, episode 2.
I feel like
this
This episode 2, I think we get the most Coruscant scenes in it. And Coruscant is just one of my really favorite locations in all of Star Wars.
Gotta be a smelly planet, though.
Yeah, for sure. But it's so cool to look at. There's so much stuff going on. The architecture, like just everything about it is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we get a lot of scenes there.
Yeah. Especially like Padme's ruminations.
Yes.
And
Our
Coruscant there.
favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Like that moment is just so tonally different and changes
Yeah.
Star Wars beyond what it had ever been before.
Yeah.
Like you can say that the original trilogy had deep, serious, emotional moments, but that moment, like,
It was like cryptic to
yeah,
a next level in like that
deeply
that high-pitched-
disturbing.
Yeah.
What is able to be conveyed in that moment through those actors, through the music, and how those scenes are shot, like, is truly masterful. You start to feel the emotions of the movie without anyone having to say any dialogue.
What's
yeah.
so cool is this movie is positioned in a way where it's like we know it's supposed to get dark. We know this isn't a happy ending, but we just didn't know how dark it was going to be when we were first watching it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm curious, what was our highest ranking category of this?
Looks like for us, we have
Music?
the perfect
The
score.
music.
Music, yeah.
I mean, it really is undeniably great.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, and the CGI, it was done so much more effectively. Like they just built
Like
to
Mustafar
last.
felt really good. Like the lava didn't feel
Yeah.
bad or anything, you know.
yeah. And it was like that perfect setting for this dark place, that dark fall. And it was
And
just...
the actual fighting from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, like between Dooku and Obi-Wan and Anakin, and Obi versus Anakin at the end, like all of them are just like the best Star Wars fighting, except
yeah.
maybe Kit Fisto and the other Jedi.
Oh!
They get kind of sliced in half pretty quickly.
It bothered me so
I
much as a
know,
kid.
it's so rude
I
to them.
love
what are you doing?
Kit Fisto and Plo Koon were my favorite Jedi, and which is funny because like at the time they had no lines or anything. They just
Yeah.
looked
Those
cool.
guys and Boba Fett, man. You just really...
At least Kit got like one deflection in
That's
there.
what me and my buddies we'd always talk about. That we're like, hey, Kit got that one block
Yeah.
in. He got
got
that
him
one
in.
block.
He's
Like,
this hype man. He got it in.
dude, Kit Fisto is the man. No, that was I. It's always tough for me to watch that scene because, you know, that fight with Mace Windu and Palpatine. I always wonder. I'm like, was Palpatine intentionally like allowing himself to lose a little bit to again fully get Anakin to turn? I mean, obviously Mace Windu was
super powerful.
yeah, undeniably like the best Jedi when it comes to just fighting in hand-to-hand combat with like especially a lightsaber, so or dueling and anything like that. So I don't know, it was interesting to see how it all plays out. And again, the arrogance kind of the Jedi, if Mace really understood Anakin beforehand, how different would that have played out if Mace really understood the conflict within Anakin and being able to really handle that.
Well, that's right
better.
before Padme's reminiscence is when Mace is like, I can sense the conflict in you. You need to stay back.
Yeah, I think Mace was very perceptive of like what was going on with Anakin. He's like, you're dangerous right now.
Right, but I'm saying
You're
like
volatile.
he observed him, he never heard him.
Yeah.
He never empathized with Anakin.
Yeah.
He didn't try to take what he was feeling into account to try to.
It was just like,
Yeah.
hey, you have feelings, so you shouldn't be a part of anything like
Yeah.
with involving this.
Yeah,
And it's
which
like,
is part of that
that's-
Jedi dogma, though. You know,
Yeah,
part
it's
of
like
that
very
religion.
it's very manipulative, kind of saying, oh, we understand there's some weird stuff here, so we're gonna take advantage of that relationship.
Can't you say that the Jedi are attached to the Jedi Order?
And also, I love how they are saying only a Sith deal in absolutes.
Yeah.
Yet the Jedi continually throw
To
one
say, like,
decision or
yeah.
the other.
Well,
Do or do not.
Yeah,
There's no try.
Yeah, and I think that's where, again, kind of painting with a big broad brush. Like I think, like Obi-Wan, he is wrestling, I think, with his legalism with the Jedi dogma, and I think he wrestles with it well, while others just don't, and they stick to it, or like, and yeah, just it turns out ugly. They're holding fast to this Jedi Order, and it's clear to see her. It's nice to have Anakin say it out loud, but like that moment when he's like, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, and like it was just that culmination of that.
Well, what's interesting too is that Palpatine's clearly taking advantage of a system that's already crumbling within. And again, it's
Yeah, he
very
helped
Which
create
is a
it.
smart move.
yeah,
He
and
helped
it's already
create that system too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to see in that way, like kind of planting these seeds, and waiting for the right time, and that's why I love the Clone Wars so much. Is her name Boris Offee?
Barriss.
Yeah, Barriss. So she, you know, you see everything with her and Ahsoka and all the stuff that plays out there to really show like Anakin's like basically waking up to all of the errors of the Jedi and becoming more of a corporate system than they are this spiritual foundation of what is the light side of the Force. And so I don't know, it's interesting to see all that and then come into this. Obviously at the time, and we're not, you know, using that to grade this, because this on its own is absolutely a masterpiece. It killed me when I I remember, and not up until recently, there wasn't a lot of love for Hayden Christensen, as we talked about before. And growing up, I always defended him. Like, that performance, and it still is to me, was fantastic.
Amazing.
I loved Hayden.
And the lines weren't even, outside of that, again, horrible first scene, the lines weren't even terrible. And when he exclaims, "I hate you," to Obi-Wan, you buy it. When Obi-Wan's saying, "Hey, basically, come back,"
I loved you. You were my brother.
it's so good. It's so good. And you see Anakin like force choke Padme to basically not try to kill her, but control the situation. I'm going to control you. Because that's just
turned her against me.
Yeah, you buy that dialogue too, and it's rough.
So heartbreaking.
Tragedy.
And you're just so bought into it the whole time. It doesn't feel, whereas like you can say parts of the prequels do feel really corny and sometimes or forced. This movie feels so natural in that way, that we've been watching the downfall of this character for a long time. And I do love that it starts off with Palpatine being kidnapped.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about how well planned out this was, and how Dooku was just literally like a dummy to throw around and be like, yeah, you can kill him now. He served his part for my plan.
Yeah.
And Dooku is like one of the best characters that we don't even really get to appreciate
it's
so
another
much.
thing I hate about this movie. They
Like,
kill him off so quickly.
Kill off Grievous and at least give us Dooku until like, you know, 3/4 of the way through the film.
That would have been an interesting, way to, go about with this film. I think, because what was our lowest category?
I mean, it still isn't that low, but
the story?
The story itself at 12.8.
And I would say,
that's mostly me.
Yeah, it is
bringing
mostly
it down from the beginning.
But I would say, though, like, to your point, or for the critical eye of the story, I mean, a lot of Star Wars was already written. This one is doing a lot of connecting the dots. So it's not that it's, like, innovative in that way, in that regard, or, like, creating much new for this story. It's mainly, it's already had a beginning, and it knows its end point, and it's just trying to connect those dots. So it's like you can't give too much of an inventiveness, but we love Revenge of the Sith for what it did do.
What it does do is it connects those more emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
Than the story does, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the most emotionally taxing to watch.
Yeah, which is why I love it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I hate myself. I want to watch Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. You definitely don't walk away from that feeling happy. Or at least you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You definitely feel like a weight walking out of it. And
I'd say the happiest time I walked away from it was the midnight premiere. Like when we watched it and like going to that with my cousins and friends, and like it was, the theater was packed and people are cheering and crying and like it was so awesome to like go to movies at that time in life. And like when that epic ending with Vader and showing all of that, we were all freaking out, standing ovations, people still doing lightsaber duels on stage, you know, and like we're all just walking out and reeling off all of our favorite parts of that movie and just how freaking amazing and epic this was.
It was. I remember seeing it in the theater with my dad, and he's the one that introduced me to Star Wars, and it's the only movie I'd seen with him in theaters. And I remember shortly after, my buddy Mike at school, I think it was his uncle who was just in New York City, he got this sketchy bootleg copy of Revenge of the Sith. He comes to my house and he's like, hey, you know that movie we both like love and our life's all about? We have all these toys. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I got it.
I got it.
On DVD. I'm like, you don't got it. What are you talking about? He's like, check this out. And he had this one, I still haven't seen this to this like day, but it had like it was a DVD with this really weird cover, and puts it in, and it looked like regular cinematic, quality, just with the runtime always in the top right going. And so we like watched Revenge of the Sith like every day for like a month or two. It was amazing. It was just a big part of our childhood.
That's pretty awesome.
It was so wherever his uncle got that in New York City, we were really appreciative and watched that lower. So when everyone else got it on DVD, we like knew all the lines and everything because we had seen it a bazillion times. But had all the toys. It was a lot of fun. But no, and I would say it ages well too. I mean, you come back
Very
to
well.
it, and the more it's one of those things too that was already a really great movie, and the more lore that comes out, and the more we learn about the Skywalkers and all the people that have been affected, the more that movie for me gets elevated.
Yeah. Just thinking of everything it did. And still introducing some new things while connecting the dots. Like, you get a character like General Grievous. Just looks cool. You get...
Yeah.
Is General Grievous not in any of the other movies?
No.
That's so
Like,
weird.
this is the first time you see him. And
That
the
is
only
so
time.
bizarre.
Yeah. I remember him, like, the action figure and everything. And I just seeing him in the trailer, like... It was just wicked.
And also, I want to know more about. He's sort of the first like human cyborg prototype.
Yeah.
Like, how did he become that?
Yeah. That's
a
What
good
is
story.
real?
There's some really cool stuff on that. And, like,
Mhm.
it is really interesting. And
They kind of unveil it in the Clone Wars.
yeah, a little bit. And I just remember, like, and also this one was the first dark Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, this was the first PG-13. I remember, like, seeing a trailer for it on TV, and it was just like, what? This is so
Yeah.
freaking cool. You got lava and lightsabers.
Yeah, it's definitely the right tone. Like, I want another Star Wars series or movie with this that isn't afraid to go this dark.
I think that's why we're so hyped for something like the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Yeah.
And, like,
You're like, it has to be dark because look at what Obi-Wan's been through.
yeah.
I mean, there's no way that show isn't rated like TV-14. I mean, think about what's coming beforehand. It's got to be dark.
Or it's like rated R, and it's like Ewan McGregor going like ham, like
Just-
samurai sword.
I'm down with that.
Kill Bill
Cutting off
style.
limbs.
Could
Kill
you
Ben.
imagine though if like they went like the complete? Like, we have all these expectations. They go the other
Oh, yeah,
route. It's
Disney
like
Plus.
TVY7.
Learn your ABCs.
Yeah, it's just like a very PC version of what happened. We're like, well,
He was
They-
sad. His friend had to go away.
they went to counseling.
Yes.
His friend's mad at him. Why is he mad? He cut off 3 of his limbs, but that's it.
Yeah. When I left you, I
We're
was
not
but the
friends anymore.
learner. Now I am the master. Cut back to when they went to counseling and he was learning about himself.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, thankfully, I don't think that's the Obi-Wan show we're
Okay,
gonna get.
there is one part of this movie that is kind of up for discussion and debate that I want to bring up to you guys.
Yes.
Padme's death.
Okay.
Some people are like, did she die because she lost the will to live? Which I hate that. I think that
Yeah.
diminishes Padme's character and makes her seem like a weakling when that is not true whatsoever.
Yep.
The way that I interpreted her death was like in the allegory to what Palpatine is talking about, like saving people from dying. In order to save Anakin's life to become Vader, the Force had to pull a life source and like take from it.
Ooh.
So that's kind of how I understood it, as like a give and a take.
Yeah.
And we all know that Vader wouldn't be able to live happily ever after with Padme. But when he comes out of his creation phase and he's like, where is she? Is she safe? That just breaks my heart.
Yeah, and I think it's also funny how many people hate that.
No.
I don't mind it at all.
I think it's the perfect
I liked it.
dramatic, like,
Yeah.
it's that epic.
Yeah.
Well, and I like that and people are like, oh, it's so monotone and robotic. I'm like, that's the point. Because if you could have heard Hayden Christensen, it probably would have been this
Blood curdling scream.
Yeah, like, but it sounds robotic because that's the most he can emote now.
Yeah. But he does emote by like bringing in,
Yeah.
like caving in
Yeah.
Yeah.
collapsing, the med stuff.
Oh, it's
So,
well
how do you
done.
guys feel about Padme's death? Are you one of those people that's like, oh, she
Well,
just...
I remember seeing a comic, and I don't know if this is canon anymore, but where Palpatine was actually helping manifest her death.
I
in
think,
that moment.
yeah, that's kind of what I had gathered is he
Yeah,
manipulated her death in order to save Vader and like keep him under his control.
Yeah, and I that's what I'm gonna buy into until I see anything otherwise. Because yeah, it's kind of weird. We don't know what happened. She lost the will to live. It's like, well, all right. I believe there are greater forces at work here.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always I guess I wasn't too hung up on it. Not that I do think she's a strong character and she's a strong woman, and it would have been cool to see her as a mother to Luke and Leia,
That's
just for
hard.
time. But I know we can't have that. So I think it was just they got to wrap up the movie, and they're just say she lost the will to live. We got to move on to her funeral and all these other things. And so I don't know. I guess I maybe just told myself well, she knows it's over for her and Anakin, and she doesn't want to live a life without Anakin. Maybe that's
You
she lost
hear
that
of
will to
people in
live.
real life dying of heartbreak.
Yeah,
so it happens.
when you've lost that spouse,
and
you
she
lose
can't
that will.
and she knows for her kid's sake, she can't be their parent.
She said one of her last words, "You're breaking my heart."
Yeah.
And then
No, okay, speaking of her last words, I always found it kind of clunky when the robot scoops out the baby and then she's like, Luke, and then she scoops out the other one. She's like, Leia. Bitch, you didn't even know you had twins. How did you come out here with two names ready to go? No hesitation.
She just
what?
knew. She just knew.
she just knew. Yeah.
She just knew, and that is what it is. That's
Also, just the whole
Easy-ta.
scoop of it.
Oopa.
Always.
Oopa. I had to.
I wasn't ready for that.
Oh my god.
I wasn't ready for that, Christian.
When else was I going to do it? During your crapping on the intro of this movie?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know how you follow that.
Sorry, what were we talking about?
What was our final ranking for this film?
93.2%.
93.2 people.
Barely
That feels-
underneath the Empire Strikes Back.
Barely. What did we end up ranking it?
That was 93.58.
Wow.
Freaking-
So very close.
We love those films.
I know. I mean, it's okay. So it's 93.6 overall, and I guess this, when you round and everything, we're doing 93.2.
2 for the Revenge
Wow.
of the Sith.
Yeah.
Correct.
I feel good about that though.
Yeah. I mean, those are the those are.
Those are the most Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
No, it's good
That's
stuff.
the best.
Well, with that said, I guess it takes us into our next segment of the show, unless you guys have any other comments here about the story. All right, well, with that said, Lord Vader, take us away.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
All right, it's hot takes time, and Amanda, you got a hot take for us. It looks like here.
I do have a hot take. For as much as I have praised this movie and I love this movie, there is a part of the story that that makes me cringe, and it's kind of a through line to a lot of Star Wars, which is the timeline. And specifically Padme's pregnancy. I really wish they would have handled that differently in the story, because it doesn't make sense. When Anakin first comes back to see Padme after his time away at the Clone Wars, which I think was 3 years from when we left off of the last movie, she's pregnant. When did she get pregnant? She talks about how it's been so long since they've seen each other. So how pregnant is she?
Yeah.
And then it seems like the events of this movie take place in a weekend, maybe.
Yeah,
How
feels like
what
it.
is the timeline of the events of this? And then we jump to Mustafar, and she's still like moderately pregnant. And I guess goes into an early labor because of the trauma that she faces. But I think this could have been handled so much better if during like the Vader transitioning scene, we get more of like an epilogue, time lapse of that happening interspliced with Padme being pregnant and giving birth, like as it functions more for the timeline, instead of it being like, oh, well, this happened, we immediately left Mustafar and she gave birth to the babies and then she immediately died. It just doesn't feel so natural. It feels like a man wrote it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's true.
Yeah, it is. It's very evident.
I disagree only because while, yes, for us Earth humanoids, that is insanely fast.
And she is human.
She is human, but not of this world. And genetics, I'm not sure how it works for people out in Naboo. Maybe it's a 3-week thing.
No.
You experience a lot in a short window, and boom, ooh,
Them
they're
midichlorians.
they're here before you know it. So I don't know. I can't. Who's
It's
to
just
say?
too messy.
Who's
You
to
raise a
say?
good point. I would say as a male spectator, I don't think of it like that, and I wasn't critical of that, but it totally makes sense what you're saying. And yeah, like
It could have easily, like, you could have kept all of the scenes what they are.
Yeah.
But just have edited it in a different way is, I think, what my solve would have been.
yeah, because it's not like we're asking for a full 9 months. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
We're
right.
from the time that she first sees Anakin in this film,
And she's already pregnant.
she's already pregnant.
Questions.
She has to tell him, she's not like
Yeah.
She's
She
not
could have said something
obviously
like,
showing.
"Oh, well, I'm only going to be pregnant for a month," or something like
Yeah.
that, where then you're like, "Oh, clearly."
But then I also want to know, like, how long are the events of this movie?
Yeah.
that's
Is it a
something I
week?
don't
Is it 2
didn't do my
weeks?
homework on.
You
No,
know,
I don't know.
I don't think. I think it's obvious. Like,
Not 9 months.
purposefully vague. It's definitely not months.
It seems like literally the course of like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Because remember, they get. I mean, it can't be long because they obviously they go rescue the Chancellor. Because I mean,
Maybe
this
allow
actually
for
sounds kind of clunky, but like when you go back and you look at it from the Clone Wars perspective,
Exactly.
they're going off to get the Chancellor, and then what we're seeing with Ahsoka seems like again a matter of days.
No,
even.
it seems like hours. Like, oh, we got the Chancellor, killed Dooku. Okay, cool. Well, Obi-Wan's gonna kill Grievous anytime.
So
And
that
then it's
makes,
like, he already fell. Baby's born. Blah blah blah. And it's just
It's kind of like
get
yeah.
him out. Whoa, okay.
All right, so on Naboo, you have a baby in 2 days. That's how long the pregnancy is.
I will say, kind of on I think your point's still valid, Amanda. But I will say they do explain aging on Tatooine because of the 2 sons and like making you just look like you're older than you are, accelerating your
I
age.
didn't know that. That makes Obi-Wan's age make more sense.
Yeah, and he's aged for that series as well. But yeah, for Naboo, I really don't think that applies, and I think it's reasonable to ask for like, yeah, where did this time go? And like, I'd be curious where the time does go.
Yeah.
Like where we're missing, and like you got to allow for a couple of days, from death to funeral, and then
Right.
I would even argue probably a day or 2 for Anakin in like the med
Recovery
pod
and
recovering
stuff, yeah.
before he even puts on the suit. Like
Yeah.
you're not
And
just gonna.
you could say that
take
that
crispy
montage
Anakin.
could have like occurred during that time.
Yeah.
And again, if they just would have edited her pregnancy a little bit differently, I wouldn't be so mad about it. But
Yeah. All right. Well,
so what's
if you vote it up and I vote it down,
vote it up.
Amanda gets it. So
Badger.
Thank you.
Roger, indeed. Well, Christian, looks like you've got one as well about old Palpy's lightsaber?
Oh yeah, I wrote that one a little while ago, but the whole I know this is later explained or retconned with Clone Wars, but when Palpatine, now I'm just losing my train of thought.
He had two lightsabers.
Like, yeah,
right?
he had two lightsabers, and in Revenge of the Sith, he loses his one
Right.
when he's fighting Mace, and it's
Or doesn't he? Oh, yeah. And you were talking about maybe him like grabbing one of like the dead Jedi.
yeah. I was thinking like instead of like retconning this whole, I don't know, that whole missing thing, like why not like, I don't know, have
Yeah, later in the movie, obviously, he has it against his fight with Yoda. And
Yeah.
interesting.
So again, messy editing.
messy editing.
So what's the take here? What's the hot take?
I don't know. I'm literally brain farting. I don't know. I don't remember the take. I'm so sorry.
I can't even give you milquetoast.
I can't even. What was my take, guys? I don't
what's your
even
take?
remember.
He wrote down, all right, for our listeners, he wrote down Palpy's lightsaber, so we were expecting something good here. It's been a week, Christian. You know, it is what it is. Give you brownie points for
Papa's
throwing it in there.
lightsaber should have been handled better.
I always remember
I don't
his
have a hot
lightsaber.
take.
His lightsaber always bothered me because his hilt was really small, kind of like Yoda's. Like you could really only hold his lightsaber with one hand. So I don't know.
Showing his combat style.
Yeah, I guess so.
But he does use two hands in his fight.
But he also doesn't even need to use the lightsaber because he has unlimited power.
Yeah.
Unlimited power.
The amount of memes that came out of this movie. Hello there.
So many.
Do it.
Okay. What are your guys' thoughts? Is Mace Windu alive?
I mean,
No.
yes, because George Lucas and Samuel L. Jackson confirmed it.
What?
What?
Yeah. Mace Windu, actually Samuel L. Jackson talked to he's on air, he's on record saying Jedi can fall from great distances and live. And he at one point came up to George Lucas and was like, yeah, so he's alive, right? And I don't know if he just corners George or
He's
something.
Just like, I'm alive.
Yeah, because like he got his purple lightsaber. He's
Yeah, I was going to
apparently
say, this doesn't seem like a healthy relationship between those two.
And George was like, sure, like you're alive,
Yeah.
whatever. And it hasn't been, there's nothing that's been like made out of this yet, but I have zero doubt. Like he wants to be back in the whole Disney verse, and he wants to be a part of Star Wars. So I believe he's alive.
I don't, but not to say that I don't want him to come back. Like if they bring him back, sure. Like if they can make a good series or a good movie or something out of it, I'll watch it. But he died. I honestly don't want to take away from the weight of that in Revenge of the Sith. I think
Yeah.
if you bring him back, you're starting to take away from Revenge of the Sith, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Don't touch my movie.
it's true. All right. A question 2 before we keep going. It's not really a hot take, but I'm curious. Who had the saddest death from Order 66? They're all kind of sad. I've got my own, and it's Plo Koon.
Oh, I was just gonna say
Yeah,
when he
he's
blows
so
up
sad.
in the ship.
It's not much of a hot take. Now, I don't know if this is true, but for anyone who's seen the Clone Wars, obviously there's a scene where the clones explain to Plo, they're about to die, and they're saying, hey, like, leave us, save yourselves, we're expendable, kind of thing. And Plo looks at him and says, not to me, and saves them. And someone said when those clones shoot at Plo Koon, shoot his ship down out of the sky, those were the same clones he saved. Might not be true. The story was written later, so people can do whatever they want. But if that is true, that makes it 10 times more heart-wrenching, because he really did. There were Jedi who treated them like they were expendable,
Yeah.
as we also saw with the Clone Wars. And
Pong Krill.
but not Plo Koon.
I'm going to throw Ayla Secura out there because
Ooh.
that girl took like 47 shots. Like they
Yeah.
took her down and then
It's
they're
like,
like,
did
beep,
you-
beep, 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 beep. I was like, this is
It's like, what are you
directed by
digging
Quentin
her grave at the
Tarantino.
same
I
time?
know. I was
Jeez,
like,
guys.
holy cow.
I mean, it was like that's why
I
they're
know,
cutting
they just,
away.
like,
They're
kept
just
going.
They're just digging that
holy
grave, man. I feel like
She's not
like,
dead yet.
Tell me you hate women without telling me you hate women.
yeah, someone again cut this scene when they show that moment, and then they cut to Kylo Ren when he's like, more, more. Or vice versa.
Interspice it with a bunch of
Yeah,
Shakti deaths.
Yeah. Or vice versa. Cut that same scene when all those AT-ATs, or I know they're not AT-ATs, but the modified ones are all shooting at Luke Skywalker from Last Jedi. But they make it look like all those clones are just shooting at him.
I think another one, also another memeable person, Kiadi Mundi. What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? But besides that, like, obviously, I don't know why his is kind of sad too.
It
He's
is
like,
kinda
"Come
sad."
on!" And he
He's
turns
like, "Come
around
on!"
and he just looks super confused. Deflects like 2 or 3 shots and is done. But yeah, for me, it's Plo Koon's.
I wasn't as sad for Kiadi Mundi's because of all of his other scenes in the movies when, like, I feel like Mace and Yoda, they'll, like, totally deflate, like Qui-Gon or Obi or Anakin when they're all summoned in the Jedi Council. And Kiadi Mundi's the guy who just throws in a little side comment to just solidify their point. Like, like something like his mother, all these things. And it's just like,
What about your mother?
yeah. He's the guy who he's got to chime in, you know?
He's just got to prove he was at the party. He didn't actually add
Even-
anything of value.
Even in his death, he had to chime in. Come on!
I couldn't. Just shut up, you conehead.
Take it like a Jedi, man.
Die. Just die like Ayla did and just get lit up. Just stop. No one cares. Like, literally no one was talking about the droid's attack on the Wookiees. You just had to just sound like you knew what was going on. Did you offer? How about this, Kiadi Mundi? If you're going to ask questions, offer solutions. Don't just say, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees? No, man. Say, hey, I heard about these droid attack on the Wookiees.
Here's my plan.
Here's my plans. And then Yoda's like, well, I guess that is happening, so I guess I'll go to Kashyyyk, Kiadi Mundi, unless you're available. No?
We
All
all
right.
know that Kiadi Mundi wouldn't have survived that attack that Yoda did. on Kashyyyk.
Yeah.
The double decapitation
Double
in one move.
decapitation, man.
Also, when they go back to the Jedi Temple and he's taking out members of the 501st, like I think Yoda throws his
Oh,
lightsaber into the
Oh,
chest
yeah.
of one of them, jumps
Yoda's
up,
most
rips it out.
badass moment, man. Freaking.
That was cool.
So cool. If so powerful are you, why leave? And I'm just like, oh, that fight between he and Palpatine was so great.
Yeah.
So great. So anyway, before we keep going into just random nonsense, time for a little bit more random nonsense. In the last segment of our show, Force Ghost Charlie, what time is it?
This is the way to trivia time!
The way to everything.
It's trivia time. And it looks like Amanda's got the question of the week.
Yeah, so this one's kind of a tough one. George Lucas has a cameo in this film. Where
you're
is
right.
he?
I wouldn't know.
Frick.
No multiple choice, but I will say that he contributes to a main character.
Oh, good question. I should know this.
I
Kinda
don't know
tricky.
this.
I'm
I'm
gonna-
gonna throw out a wild guess.
What's your guess?
I gotta think about something wild.
He's his voice chiming in.
Oh,
He's he's a blue guy. I
Is he a
don't.
blue guy?
He's a blue guy.
Like, what do you mean?
Like the race of Cad Bane?
I don't think the race, but he could be one of the Blue Man group.
Okay.
I am just trying to think through the whole movie and think of where he
contributes to a main character.
To a main character.
Oh,
That makes it even harder.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, because I know he doesn't voice any of the main characters, like not General Grievous. I'm trying to think of other CGI characters he could be, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say, I don't know. He contributes. That's the hard part. I'm just thinking about him walking by in a scene, but contributing to a main character. I don't know. I don't have anything. I can't think of it.
yeah, he's a blue guy. And,
Blue guy.
And he didn't he do something with the cough with General Grievous?
That is the correct answer, as he is General Grievous's cough.
I only thought of it when you said it, man.
And I said it wasn't General Grievous. Well,
is a
if
nasty
Chiara Mundi
cop.
was here to like throw in a little nugget of
You've been like,
information.
I knew
Good question,
that.
Amanda.
Yeah, very good question. Well, that concludes one of the best pieces of Star Wars content I think we're going to rank and review. Lots of fun. Be sure to tune in next week. We're going to continue to go through the movies until they're all done, so super excited about that. And if you want to follow more Star Wars content, Amanda, where can people check us out?
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and our website, dueloftheranks.com, where you can see all of our previous rankings and blogs. Check out our store and submit your own hot takes for us to read.
Absolutely. Again, next week, we're really excited. We're going to be breaking down, ranking, and reviewing Star Wars Rogue One. Super excited to go through that movie and see how it really ranks and stacks up against this one and Empire Strikes Back. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Be sure to tune in next week for that episode. Don't want to miss it. We'll see you then.